Well, here we are again. Good evening, friends, and a very warm welcome to this Gemini full moon meditation meeting held here in New York. The full moon takes place tomorrow morning at 9:53, 7 minutes to 10 Eastern Time, and we're working today within the period when the lighted energies pouring into humanity are approaching their peak. So this is the whole energy system within which we're working. The Gemini energies carry with them the potencies of the Christ, and the annual celebration of this full moon festival is perhaps best understood as the Christ's own festival. And as the Christ's festival, it's also uniquely the festival of humanity, our festival. For the Christ's work and the work of humanity are intimately related. The soul's work within and through the personality is the Christ's work. And as well as being a culmination of the three primary spiritual festivals for the year, the Gemini full moon is also observed every year as World Invocation Day, a day to envisage the unformulated, sometimes raw cry from the troubled heart of humanity, condensing into a coordinated, coherent, and deeply felt invocative appeal to the Christ, to the Lord of the world and beyond, right to the heart of the Son, to the cosmic Christ. World Invocation Day can be approached as a day of prayer for all religious people of all faiths. This is its idea, calling out to God for light and love and the power of the Spirit in a time when forces of materialism are crystallizing and breaking up. And in the carefully chosen words of the Great Invocation, DK presented two versions for the invocation before the final culminating version that we use today that was released in 1945 when the Great Battle of the Second World War was largely over and when the principles of the United Nations and the Declaration of Human Rights were taking shape in a new order of institutions and laws. And it's interesting that while the first two versions of the invocation used language that very much limited its appeal to occult students, the final version synthesized these profoundly occult phrases into a universal language that would have clear meaning and relevance to all people of goodwill, occult and mystic, mentally polarized and heart-centered. Its power and its beauty come in large measure from the very fact that it speaks to all people of goodwill. For above all, this final version of the Great Invocation calls for the universally recognized divine energies of light, love, and power without defining them, leaving them open to the user to understand, for these energies to be anchored in a new universal consciousness, evoking an awareness of relationship with all human beings and with all life. This is what was new about the third stanza of the Great Invocation, its universality. Occultists and mystics, religious practitioner and spiritual philosopher, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Jew, and indigenous, standing together as one to call forth from the worlds of spirit qualities of love and wisdom and purpose. We can imagine small local congregations and churches, temples and mosques uniting tomorrow in a common act of prayer that the plan of love and light may work out in the human race, in those people using that invocation and the entire race, in us and through our individual, national, and international lives. Let the sense of human unity grow and mature and reach out to embrace all people. And we can also imagine gatherings and online events where the Great Invocation is used as a more mentally focused invocation to the one in whom we live and move and have our being, lifting the prayers that ceaselessly arise from the human heart and directing it like an arrow as a call for aid from the higher worlds, however those higher worlds might be envisaged. The critical point of this invocation is that its call is not for ourselves, it's not personal, but it's a call for light and love and spiritual purpose to flow into the entire human kingdom. That's an incredible thought. The species, our species. We'll work together now with, just before we get into this talk, with the adapted version of the Great Invocation. This is a version that honors the growing universal spirit in human thought. It replaces the word men with human and lifts the name of the one who is to reappear out of any possible Christian or single religious connotation into the more universally appropriate coming one. In the English language version of the invocation, these minor adaptations reflect a growing recognition of the oneness of humanity and a growing universal consciousness that's becoming natural. As we use this version now, we can imaginatively stand with the evolving, deepening sense of oneness in humanity's thinking and feeling nature. Later on, when we, at the end of the meeting, at the conclusion of the meditation, we'll use the original wording given out by the Tibetan in 1945, knowing as we do so that the meaning of the words men and Christ, as used in this original version, are universal, referring to the archetypal ancient understanding of man derived from the sacred word manas, meaning mind, and referring to the universal spirit of the Christ, known by different names in different cultures, faiths, and traditions. So, together now, in preparation for World Invocation Day tomorrow, can we pause, align with the group on the mental plane, and as a group, a global group, quietly hear the cry of humanity and imaginatively lift that cry up to the soul, to the hierarchy of great ones on the inner side of life, and lift it right up to the feet of the Christ at the heart of hierarchy, and to Shambhala, that place where the will of God is known. And say together, from the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. One way of understanding the meaning of our time is to ponder the role that duality is playing in the life of humanity. The separation between soul and personality, or between higher and lower desires, divides the self into two poles of identity. And as we become more and more aware of this division, irritation and conflict grows. And yet, while this recognition of division generates conflict between the two selves, it also generates the impulse to find a place of balance and poise, a new harmony that resolves that conflict. And it's this impulse that's leading humanity into the first initiation and onto the discipleship path, the whole human kingdom as a kingdom in nature. As long as the universal concerns that characterize Christ consciousness are seen to be separate from the world of, say, money and finance or government and regulation, and as long as universal principles and laws conflict with the desires, appetites, and concerns of a materially based personality consciousness, the awareness of this separation is itself a source of distress. And this is a distress that really characterizes our time. We know it well. But we're living in a period when the irritation of separation is becoming increasingly pronounced. And so the quest for unity is becoming a significant concern in all systems and structures of relationship. Duality is beginning to be transformed and healed by its exposure to a consciousness of synthesis. The difficulty is that we live in a world of time when we want change to happen in terms of years and decades. Yet this sort of transformation from duality to a new balance, influenced by the higher energies of synthesis, takes generations. It must. We naturally want things to culminate in an epochal change during our lifetime, during my lifetime, yet keeping a spirit of expectation alive in our orientation to the world doesn't depend on this sort of focus on phenomenal changes in the immediate present. Expectation can be more usefully centered on a deeper view of the orientation of consciousness, knowing that the actual working out in human affairs of major planetary changes will be a result of all the preparatory work done by human beings, as much as incoming spiritual influences. Much work has been done to lighten and aerate the soil of human consciousness. But there is more tilling to be done, more spiritual labor to be performed before we see a universal spirit-centered sense of the future as a strong element of human thinking and feeling. The point of spiritual tension held by the group of world servers needs to be strong, clear, and radiant. And this would seem to be the task right now for all of us, all who love humanity, and who are sensitive to the energies of the universal Christ. To imagine ourselves, our groups, and the new group itself, all servers, all deep servers, to be holding a point of tension, strong, clear, and radiant. There's a curious relation between patience and persistence. Persisting with the holding and the quiet lifting of a point of spiritual tension, and detached patience with the working out of that higher tension through the alchemical transformation of the desires, appetites, and dreams of the material world. The wisdom teachings that have guided generations of us who work with this full moon approach to hierarchy are deeply imbued with the prophecy that the Christ will emerge again in time and space as a fully visible, strong, clear presence in the hearts of individuals, nations, and peoples, in the minds of thinkers of all traditions, and in the living, breathing world of human affairs. So for us, this question of persistence and patience has an immediate relevance. Sometimes biting into our preconceived notions and testing our will and deepening our understanding of the plan, causing us to try to unite our necessarily limited understandings of the worlds of hierarchy and the events and cycles governing hierarchical affairs with our understanding of what we are observing in the world of human affairs and of what we can expect or realistically hope for in the coming years or decades. Within this overarching sense of living through a time when an enormous transition is taking place in human consciousness, the task of spiritual workers is to prepare the ground of human thinking, living, and being. And preparation requires that we give our attention, our love, and our care to the work of the new group of world servers. And most especially we do this to those seed groups within the new group, those professions or disciplines or field of activity within the group where we find ourselves to have a natural affinity and where we have taken some responsibility to search out the points of wisdom within the field. To prepare for the reappearances in this way, to prepare ourselves for the next step in raising the point of spiritual tension in our own lives, while at the same time imaginatively, intuitively aligning ourselves with the raising of the point of spiritual tension of the new group of world servers. The Gemini full moon, with its mythical story of the twins and of the secret purposes of duality, is the culmination of the three higher spiritual festivals. It inaugurates a new year in the ongoing work of preparing for the Christ's return. And the focus on duality that comes with Gemini can be a sobering influence, for it helps us to view the world and our own lives in relation to the coming one through a wider lens than immediate events, either events in hierarchy or Shambhala, or events in humanity. What is our responsibility to contribute to the preparation for a repolarization in consciousness and relationship? We can only hope to help others prepare for a world of relationships polarized around principles of universality, freedom, and sharing, to the extent that we deepen our own polarization around these principles. It's only through the lighted view of the intuition that our understanding of the world of the present and its relation to the world of the future can become fully alive. And as this understanding deepens and grows throughout our life into some measure of wisdom, so then can it be communicated to others in language that can be heard and can have meaning and relevance and be appropriate. Gemini brings with it gifts and secrets that can enhance this intuitive insight, helping us prepare for the culminating time when the magical world of myth comes into focus within the outer worlds of daily events and happenings. Preparation for the reappearance is essentially about the process of refining the long-term, persistent, patient will to grow in our ability to serve and to spread love in our surroundings as individuals and as a group, as simple, humble human beings together with our fellow human beings. during a breakout session in last weekend's Arcane School conference in Geneva, a co-worker in the little session that I was in reminded the small group of us in the Zoom room of a reference by the Tibetan to the nature of love and its association with intuition and wisdom. It seems especially relevant to draw attention to this reference now as we approach the high point of the year and the celebration of the Festival of the Christ, which is also the Festival of Humanity. Reminding us that love wisdom is a fusion of the heart nature and the higher mind. DK noted in 1939, remember this, 1939, that's, you're moving into the war. This is a terribly trying, desperately painful, traumatic time. Noting that this energy will characterize future groups that will be seeds embodying and radiating the higher incoming energies, love, wisdom. On page 99 of the Externalization of the Hierarchy, we read from this passage that esoterically and in reality, the love which these groups will be working with is not what we normally think of as love. It is, to quote, perceptive understanding, the ability to recognize that which has produced an existing situation and a consequent freedom from criticism. It involves that beneficent silence which carries healing in its wings and which is only expressive when the inhibition aspect of silence is absent and the person no longer has to still their lower nature and quiet the voices of their own ideas in order to understand and achieve identification with that which must be loved. End of quote. Such an understanding allows groups, these seed groups, to recognize what has caused the outer turmoil in the world and to recognize it without criticism. It produces a quality of deep silence in the seed group, and it's that silence that radiates healing energies. This is the love that serious, joyful, esoteric work challenges us to develop in our groups. And it can only be present to the extent that individual ideas about what's happening in the world are automatically and naturally put aside in the group's quest to understand and identify with that which must be loved. A group quest to understand and identify with humanity in its current state of development as it is today, our world, our people. We should not assume this as a given. It's so easy in esoteric work to assume that we automatically do these things. Yet the development of this non-critical love of humanity is something that each one of us has such an important role to contribute to. The passage in Externalization goes on to consider wisdom as the partner of love. I quote, wisdom is the sublimation of the intellect, but this involves the sublimation of the higher as well as the lower aspects of the mind. It's a blend of intuition, spiritual perception, cooperation with the plan, and spontaneous intellectual appreciation of that which is contacted. And all this fused and blended with and by the love which the Tibetan says, I have defined above. And so in our meditation work together now, today on this Gemini full moon, Gemini festival, can we stand with all who in the human family at this time are seriously, joyfully, and purposefully working in groups with others and becoming, whether they know it or not, true radiatory seeds for these qualities of love wisdom. For this is happening in our time, and it is our privilege. So we'll work together with the Festival Meditation Outline and the keynote for Gemini. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. Group fusion. Together we affirm the fact of group fusion and integration within the heart center of the new group of world servers, mediating between hierarchy and humanity. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. Alignment. We project a line of lighted energy towards the spiritual hierarchy of the planetary heart, the great ashram of Sanat Kumara, and towards the Christ at the heart of hierarchy. And we extend the line of light towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. The higher interlude. Hold the contemplative mind open to the extraplanetary energy streaming into Shambhala and radiated through hierarchy. And using the creative imagination, endeavor to see the three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity, gradually coming into alignment and interplay. Meditation. Reflect on the seed thought for Gemini and the Christ Festival. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. Precipitation. Using the creative imagination, visualize energies of light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth in prepared physical plane centers through which the plan can manifest. Use the sixfold progression of divine love as a sequence of energy precipitation. Shambhala, hierarchy, the Christ, the new group of world servers, men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world, and the multitude of physical centers of distribution. The lower interlude. Refocus the consciousness as a group within the periphery of the great ashram. And together sound the affirmation, in the center of all love I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. Visualize the downpouring spiritual inflow released from Shambhala through the hierarchy, streaming into humanity through the prepared channel. And consider how these inpouring energies are establishing the pathway of light for the coming world teacher, the Christ. distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, visualize the outpouring of light and love and power from the spiritual hierarchy through the 5 planetary inlets: London, Darjeeling, New York, Geneva, Tokyo, irradiating the consciousness of the whole human race. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you, friends. Thank you for that work. The meetings coming this weekend, remember, the Arcane School Conference in London. I think for the afternoon sessions on Saturday and Sunday, I think that's would start in Eastern time around 7 or 8 a.m., but you can certainly check on the website. Then New Moon meeting here in New York, Wednesday, June the 5th, 6 p.m. And there's also a broadcast meeting from London, which will be earlier in the afternoon on Wednesday, June the 5th. And the Cancer Festival next full moon meditation meeting Friday, June the 21st, 6 p.m. here in New York, and again in London, and an hour earlier for Eastern time in Geneva, which will be usually in French, the French language. So thank you, friends. And remember, World Invocation Day tomorrow. Hold very much in mind this day. Imagine increasingly local people, wherever they are, making it known that this day is a day for invocation of the Spirit. invocation of these higher energies into the human heart and mind. In every year in Nigeria, there's a group that have advertisements, 2 full pages of one of the major national newspapers, the Great Invocation on one side and explanation about World Invocation Day on the other side. So we can imagine more people being aware and thinking of this call for help, cry for help, invocation. Thank you, friends. Oh, yes, thank you very much. And a webinar, there is a webinar which will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow, from 1 p.m. Eastern Time, a World Invocation Day webinar from World Goodwill and the Lucis Trust. I think that's it. Thank you, friends. Good evening.